Hi, this is Jurgen Rasmussen. Welcome to the Provocative Hypnosis Vlog. This is an episode about provocation artistry and some interesting curiosity hacks that you can use in your own life to help grow and mature as an individual, and that you can also use with your clients. So, three kind of provocative, counterintuitive ways to use curiosity to evolve and to grow. So, the first hint is whenever you feel provoked, meaning whenever you feel a bit pissed off, a bit challenged, a bit insulted, or triggered, or perhaps even humiliated, this is a great time to get curious. So, just yesterday, I saw a client for anger management, and I was questioning her ways of thinking. And at one point, she looked at me and she said, "I can feel myself getting quite provoked right now." And I looked at her and I said, And she looked at me confused, as if the fact that she felt provoked had a sort of fixed meaning. And this is very interesting with clients. If clients throw out the sentence, "I can feel myself getting quite provoked right now," if you just stay present and you ask them, and with some curiosity, they'll often get quite confused. So a lot of people seem to have this implicit assumption that if they feel provoked, that means that you've said something wrong, or it means that you should be empathetic, or it means that you should somehow back off, or that what you're saying is automatically wrong or mistaken. I remember once I did a seminar for some people in law enforcement, and a person there said, "You're really, really provocative." And he said it in a way that there was kind of an anger to his voice. And I said to him, "That's great. I mean, that's the whole point. What will be the point of me being here and just validating your world, your ways of thinking? If you feel provoked right now, that's a hint that there's something for you to explore in what I'm saying. Are you up for the challenge or not?" So here's my invitation to you. And this doesn't mean that you have to do this, or that you should even do it at all times. It's just an invitation. And that is to consider that whenever you feel insulted, humiliated, triggered, whatever it might be, after someone has said something, what's going on is that the other person has questioned one of your premises. The other person has questioned one of your deeper assumptions or deeper premises. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're wrong. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're right. It doesn't necessarily, in and of itself, mean anything. It's just that if you have that feeling based upon someone else's verbal utterances, it's a hint that someone else has questioned one of your deeper premises. Now, very often these premises aren't even ours to begin with. We've just internalized them from the culture that we live in. So, this is a great chance for you to then ask, wait a minute, what am I assuming here? What deeper premise or assumption is being challenged at this moment? Very often, we don't even know what it is. We just feel provoked. But by shining a light on that and getting clear on what is the deeper assumption or premise here, we can then begin to have a relationship to that deep assumption or premise, to contextualize it, to nuance it. We may still end up believing that we're fundamentally right, or that we're more right than wrong per se, or we may up discarding it, or partially discarding it, or nuancing it. But in any ways, It's an opportunity for perspective taking, for psychological development, for growth, and for maturity. So that's my first invitation for you. My second invitation for you is whenever you feel validated, like whenever someone else says something and it just really resonates with you in the sense that, oh, yes, this is right. I feel validated. I feel seen. This might also be a great time to become curious and to step back a little bit. Because what I'm going to suggest to you is that this just means that the other person has just validated one of your deeper assumptions or one of your deep premises. It doesn't in and of itself say anything about whether it's correct or incorrect or useful or not useful or to what extent. Doesn't necessarily, the fact that you feel validated doesn't necessarily give you any information about anything. It just means that something someone else is saying or is perceived to be saying seems to validate a deep assumption in your map. So instead of automatically taking for granted that this is a good thing, it can be, if you want to, a wonderful opportunity to step back and go, hey, this person just validated a deep premise or deep assumption in my world. What is that deep assumption or what is that premise? And then begin to test it, look at it, relate to it, nuance it. And also to be able to say that, look, it's not you being validated. You are not the ideas and the assumptions that run through consciousness. You know, you're not fused with that. It just seems that way, right? So the whole notion that you've been validated just because someone validates a premise is also a premise to investigate because it presupposes an identification with thought instead of the ability to use thought as a tool. So this is, don't overlook this one. You know, positive feelings, deep validations. Um, Feel free to challenge those as well. The third curiosity hack I would encourage you to play with is question, get skeptical, and get curious about the feeling of certainty. You know, we all have feelings of certainty from time to time, and it's so easy to fall for the trap that our feelings of being right, our feelings of knowing something, kind of gives us information about how the world works or how competent we are or how right we are. There's no necessary correlation between the two whatsoever. So, as Daniel Kahneman, the psychologist who won a Nobel Prize in economics, author of the book Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow, he very often made the point that, you know, what you see is all there is. And the less we know about something, the easier it is to get the feeling of certainty, which is how a lot of very incompetent people very often end up feeling that they really know stuff and that things are really, really simple. So, what the feeling of certainty tells you is that whatever pieces of puzzle you have in your mental puzzle on a particular topic, you've been able to kind of put those together in a way that feels right. You have internal coherence, and now you're mixing this up with a complete understanding or actual competency in the world. So if you have four pieces of puzzle, it's pretty easy for you to put them together and get a feeling that this matches. So for those of you who've studied, you know, meditation or NLP or hypnosis, and let's say that you go on a course and your mind is blown, you know, you make some discoveries, you see some new stuff, you come home, you tell your brother or your mother or your spouse, you know, about this. And before you can even utter a sentence, they go, "Oh yeah, 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 positive thinking. Yep, yep, got it. Yep, I know exactly what you mean." And you just know they have no fucking clue. Like you know they have no reference for this whatsoever. But what they're doing is that they're taking potentially new information and they're just distorting it to fit some filters they had before you even have the conversation with them. So that gives them the feeling of understanding something they, in all likelihood, have no reference for whatsoever. So this is something I always encourage people to do in my seminars. I say to them, look, whenever you get the feeling, I get this. Yeah, I've heard this before. Yep, I got this. That's the sign that you have internal coherence. That's your signal to open back up, to get curious, and to begin to listen for what you don't know, to look for what you haven't seen, listen for what you haven't heard. The feeling of certainty, the feeling of knowing, is a sign that your mind has closed down. So if you can get curious, you can use that as an invitation to open back up, to listen for what you haven't heard, to look for what you haven't seen. So be skeptical of certainty. Get really curious about feelings of validation, and get really curious whenever you feel triggered. If you can if you can use these three little hacks in your own life, your psychological growth and maturity will increase. Your ability for perspective taking will increase. So use this with yourself, use this with clients. If you have any questions, comments, feel free to post them wherever you find this video. If my way of thinking and relating to things relate to you, and you're looking to do some changes in your life, or you're curious about mentoring, you can reach me at provocativehypnosis.com. Till next time.